A new book has made its way to the ZKM Center for Art and Media, Karlsruhe. It is the latest work to be released by the ZKM Publications Department, published in collaboration with MIT Press. Negative Space: Trajectories of Sculpture in the 20th and 21st Centuries. The publication was produced in the wake of the 2019 exhibition bearing the same name. With a wide selection of artworks, the exhibition showcased the development of abstract sculpture over the course of the 20th century up until today. The exhibition concerned itself with the ways in which modern sculpture differs from classical sculpture. Which sculptures could only have been created in the 20th century and would have been unthinkable in former centuries.
For centuries and for millennia, sculptures stood in space. They stood around in space, so to speak, but they did not engage with the subject of space itself. On the contrary, since antiquity, sculpture has been intimately connected with the notion of the body. In around 1900, however, sculptors began to focus on the subject of space, and consequently began to negate the three fundamental categories within classical sculpture: mass, volume, gravity, all of which are derived from the body. This development at the turn of the century explicitly gave rise to the term negative space. In the 20th century, we thus witness a complete detachment of sculpture from the body. Artists developed new categories in the form of levitating sculptures, contours, and so on. It has thus become necessary to make a catalog in which the developments within sculpture throughout the 20th and 21st centuries are extensively and comprehensively documented. It was about time to give the development of spatial sculpture the space it deserves.
The first step was to make a basic selection of images for the catalog and to assign these images to the individual chapters. Almost all of the sculptures that we presented in the exhibition were also featured in the catalog. The sculptures were individually photographed in the exhibition exactly for this purpose. In order to systematically capture the theme of negative space beyond the exhibition space, we included other significant works in the catalog. To do this, we worked directly with research libraries, image archives, as well as with artists.
The
ZKM Publications team and Annette Holzheide worked together in order to acquire the images of artworks from the artists, as well as galleries and museums from around the world. After selecting 800 artworks by more than 400 artists, hundreds of images had to be requested, and printing permissions had to be obtained. Each chapter is introduced by a short essay from Peter Weibel. Upon receiving the texts, the first thing we did was to check them for accuracy. More specifically, we reviewed the quotations and the references made in the text. Then we submitted them for translation from German into English. After revising the translation ourselves once more, we sent it to an English-language proofreader. We also gave some thought to the structure of the book. This is, for example, how we came to choose bronze as the special color for the separator pages at the beginning of each chapter. After the concept of the publication's content was in place, the layout of the book was developed by the graphic designers of Zweimal Goldstein, together with the ZKM team. The book features large illustrations, which were thematically grouped and arranged into image galleries. In the text, the images were set as smaller reference illustrations.
Begleitet werden die Texte von
The
Zitaten.
texts are accompanied by quotations from artists. These reinforce the author's statements and also lighten up the text graphically.
Die Grafiker haben zudem eine sehr schöne
Furthermore,
eigene
the graphic designers developed a very nice font of their own that distinguishes the headings. The font looks light, the lines are almost wiry, and it creates space.
Die übrige Gestaltung des Buches ist gleichzeitig ganz bewusst.
Meanwhile, the rest of the book's design is deliberately reduced and restrained, reminiscent of classic sculpture catalogs. Simple and elegant design was the main challenge for the graphic design team. The formal language and the aesthetics of the artworks should stand in the foreground, whereas the text should convey the theoretical basis and the author's argumentation in such a way that it is readily comprehensible.
Wir arbeiten die meiste Zeit digital.
As far as text corrections and the placement of images are concerned, which we receive bit by bit, we mostly work on the book digitally. At some point, however, we print everything out, because this allows us to see if everything is coherent and to change some of our decisions if needed. Here, for example, we decided to switch the pages.
Die Bilder werden dann noch bearbeitet vom
The images are then processed by the reprographer, and we receive these image proofs as a roll for the purpose of checking. We cut out all the images individually and then lay them out according to how they should appear together on the page. We can thus determine whether further adjustments of the color values are required and can pass this information back to the reprographer.
Ein Dummy ist eine Blanko-Version des
A dummy is a blank version of the final book. It gives us a chance to see how it will really look as a whole. We check the way it opens and closes and whether everything is right with the binding. This is also the first time that we get to see how thick the book will actually be.
Aus der Druckerei kommt kurz vor Ende noch
Shortly before the end, we received this sample of the folded sheets from the printing shop. After the printed sheets have been trimmed, they are folded together. This is the last step before the book is bound, glued, and then assembled.
After all these revisions, the book was finally ready for print. 3,000 copies were produced here at the Eberl and Kosel print shop in Altrusried, Krugzell, Bavaria. The last step in production is to glue the book block onto the book cover. In the German printing industry, this process is called the wetting. It marks the end of a long process, starting with the exhibition concept, through to its realization, and finally its transposition into a printed catalog.